A judge ruled that official records from the Trump White House could be turned over to the Congressional Committee investigating the January 6th insurrection. And yet, even as Trump and his allies face various investigations and accusations of wrongdoing, they're still reappearing on right-wing media networks to lie about everything from the pandemic to the economy. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. When Trump left office, there were lots of people I would have been happy to never see or hear from again, like overinflated football Jason Miller, or the zombie who somehow retained the ability to talk, Stephen Miller. Yes, I did catch the rage virus, and yes, I do have an appetite for brains, but that should not distract from the fact that Joe Biden is an illegitimate president. But probably the person I missed the least was Kellyanne Conway, whose shamelessness truly knew no bounds. She was somehow the Trump administration's most prolific and also worst liar. She wasn't even smooth about it. She lied the way your kids lie. Did you do your homework, Teddy? Not only did I do all my homework for the entire school year and all of everyone else's, I also did the laundry. Okay, yeah. Go do your homework. What gave it away? Was it the laundry? To this day, I still think the quote that should follow her for the rest of her career is this moment from March of 2020, where she insisted in the most condescending way possible that the coronavirus outbreak was under control.
It is being contained. And do you not think it's being contained in this
I'm
country?
not a doctor, Miller.
Well, but you said it's not being contained. So are you a doctor or a lawyer when you say it's not being contained? That's
The
false.
virus
You
is
just said something
spreading
that's not true.
She always sounds like she's trying to argue that her coupon is still valid at Talbot's. It's valid. Do you not think it's valid? You said it was not valid, and I'm just wondering where you came up with it wasn't valid. But hey, credit where credit's due. She was right. It was all contained. The coronavirus went away. Everything went back to normal. I kept doing the show in a suit and tie in front of a live studio audience without interruption, and I stopped having that weird recurring nightmare where I was trapped in a room with a sea captain painting who loved corny jokes and sounded suspiciously like Will Forte.
Hey, Seth, what do you call a painting that isn't real?
I don't know.
A pigment of your imagination.
I gotta figure out a way to get rid of that guy. So a deadly respiratory virus was rapidly spreading across the country, and yet Kellyanne Conway confidently told us everything was under control. Like a Park Slope mom sipping a Chardonnay while her kids set the house on fire. Don't worry, the fire's contained, and the fumes help build up their immune system. Hold on one second. Juniper! What did I say about adding lighter fluid? Juniper! Stop squirting the lighter fluid! So help me God, Juniper! Hey, you guys, I'm gonna let you behind the curtain a little bit. Wally, old cue card Wally backstage. Well, yeah, sure. Why not? Wally said, hey, because, Wally's ahead of the curve. So he's trying to stay 2 steps ahead of it so we don't get in trouble. He goes, hey, you want me to hold the cards a little off when you're yelling at Juniper? And I was like, great idea, Wally. So I turn that way. Wally goes that way. Hey, look, I get it, Wally. You went the side that made more sense.
Thank you. That's right. The side you always...
Anyway, we're talking about how someone else is incompetent. And yet, despite, or more likely because of the fact that she lied about everything, Kellyanne Conway was invited back on Fox News this week to lie yet again, this time about global supply chain issues.
You have a Biden administration pretending they can bring us out of a once-in-a-century pandemic economically, and they can't admit what inflation is. Joe Biden telling us all that we're sort of stupid and don't understand what the supply chain crisis is. I worked at that White House for 4 years. We never even heard of such a thing. There was no supply chain crisis.
Oh, really? Because I seem to remember a time when a roll of toilet paper had a street value just above cocaine. Hey, man, you looking to score some paper? I just got some sweet Alabama snowflake. 2 plies and you'll fly, baby. Now, in fairness, that disruption to the supply chain was caused in large part by panic buying in the early days of the pandemic. Though I'm still not sure why we all stocked up on toilet paper like we were about to be surprise guests on Hot Ones. Sean Evans is here. He has 10 different sauces. We need backup. I still have PTSD about toilet paper, AKA TPSD. The sea captain sent that one in. Every time I see some dude walking down the street carrying a 6-pack of Charmin, I scream, if you don't have 6 bathrooms or 6 ass, You better turn around right now and take that back to the store. Which is a bummer, because I'm almost always with my kids when I yell that, and then they have a ton of questions. What's an ass? Well, I guess you, if you tell mommy this happened again. It's not a threat, it's a definition. I mean, I know the last 20 months have been kind of a haze, but did they really expect us all to forget the long lines for food and the empty store shelves and the desperate search for Lysol and Purell? Did they think we've forgotten the days of watching Tiger King and trying to make our own hand sanitizer out of vodka and grape jelly? That's not to say there aren't supply chain issues now. There obviously are. I just ordered a Christmas gift for my wife, and I got an email back telling me I should get it by July. That's just great. Hopefully the cashmere sweater will look good on my divorce attorney. Happy Independence Day, Irv. You think my wife's gonna believe me when I say her gift didn't arrive because there were supply chain issues, especially since I've used that excuse before? Even worse, I used it in 2011. It seemed genius at the time, but last night she asked, hey, what was the supply chain issue in 2011 again? And the best I could come up with was, the royal wedding? Yeah, I guess like William and Kate bought all the bracelets that year. And in some ways, I guess you shouldn't be surprised that there are supply chain issues. We're still living through a once-in-a-century pandemic that has transformed virtually every aspect of society, not to mention inflationary pressures that are, on top of everything else, making life difficult for working people in this country. And Democrats need to deal with those issues ASAP. Unfortunately, we got an unhinged Republican Party that loses its if just a handful of their members vote for a bipartisan infrastructure plan, and millionaire corporate Democrats like Joe Manchin standing in the way of the agenda President Biden promised to deliver. And it certainly doesn't help the optics that not only does Manchin have a yacht that he calls a houseboat, he also apparently has a Maserati, as we discovered from a recent clip where he was confronted by climate activists. I'm sorry, but no politician should have a Maserati. Are you a senator from West Virginia or a plastic surgeon from Palm Beach? Joe Biden drives a Stingray, and he only gets away with it because he had the vibe of a kind little grandpa who's getting back into dating. I'm going to pick up Nancy Pellegrino down in the nursing home. Oh, Nancy Pellegrino. Yeah, I remember back in '59 when we were high school sweethearts. I took her to a drive-in to see Ben-Hur. Then we slid into the back seat, and well, let's just say we went at it like Roman gladiators. Grandpa! Cars had a lot more steel in them in those days, and so did I. Grandpa, stop it! The point is, the supply chain crisis is very real. But let's not act like it just happened out of nowhere. And the fact that the people around Trump are such brazen, shameless liars is all the more reason why we need to see actual records of what was going on behind the scenes in that White House, especially as it relates to the insurrection on January 6th. Trump has been trying to keep those records hidden from public view, but a court just ruled against him last night.
Former President Trump has lost the latest round in his legal battle to keep certain White House records secret relating to the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol.
A federal judge has ruled the congressional committee investigating the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol can access former President Trump's White House records.
In this court filing, very late at night, the National Archives puts out a list of more than 700 pages itemized saying this is what Donald Trump wants to keep secret. And they really gave details that we didn't know. There are these handwritten memos or handwritten notes from Chief of Staff Mark Meadows specifically about January 6th. There are call logs and switchboard call logs about calls to President Trump to Vice President Mike Pence leading up to about January 6th. These are very specific things. White House visitor logs, White House call records, other memos, the daily schedule.
I'm shocked to learn there even was a daily schedule. Remember when we found out most days it said executive time and that was just code for Trump not wanting to leave his bedroom? He'd just spend the morning in his PJs calling in to Fox and Friends while viewers waited for them to blink to make sure they were still alive. Every once in a while, an intern would come out and smear their eyeballs with Vaseline. Brian Kilmeade always looked during those interviews like he was auditioning to be one of those gold statue guys in Times Square. He never actually went home. They'd just turn off the lights and leave him there overnight. Maybe that's why Trump didn't care about the pandemic. He was the first president to work remotely. And even when he did show up to the office, I'd be shocked if there were ever actually records or official documents in that White House. You think anyone ever took notes in a meeting with Trump? When they finally subpoenaed those notepads, they're just going to be filled with random doodles and inscrutable comments like ingest bleach, maybe? And there's no way Trump himself ever wrote anything down. He never even wrote any of his own books. They were ghostwritten, which I'm sure Trump took literally. I didn't write it, a ghost did, and I was pretty disappointed when I met the ghost. They said, Donald, we're getting you a ghostwriter, and I was hoping for a Slimer, or even better, a Patrick Swayze. That's the kind of atmosphere the Trump inner circle fostered, and now it's taken hold of virtually the entire Republican Party. It's a movement fully enthralled to Trumpism, which is why we have to investigate what they did and make sure it never happens again, especially since Trump keeps teasing another run in 2024, because there were times when Trump was so abjectly, brazenly, criminally
stupid.
This has been A Closer Look. God's Love We Deliver cooks and brings over 2 million meals a year to men, women, and children living with HIV, AIDS, cancer, and other serious illnesses, and they need your help now more than ever. If you're watching this online, you can hit the donate button. Stay safe, get vaccinated. We love you.